Welcome back, everyone, to episode 6 of our podcast from the Farmyard. Welcome back, or congratulations for finding us on this episode. So happy for all of the support that you guys have shown us all the way up into this point, and the support that I know you guys are going to continue showing us in the future. It means so much to us. And today we are going to be talking about breeding and hatching chickens.
Yep. So, you want to hatch some chicks off your farm. Maybe you want some cool combinations. Maybe you want to carry a genetic. Hatching is super cool. I mean, I did it once and I would totally recommend it to any chicken owner. It's such a cool experience just to watch the little chick hatch, and then you get to raise it and be like, man, I raised this right off my farm. It's so cool. So definitely something I think you should try if you have Rooster on your farm and you want to get some cool combos, or even if you wanted to buy eggs off the internet, whether it be eBay or a certain seller or something. I know there's ways you can do that. You can hatch out your own eggs, but hatching is so cool. I love it. It's the neatest thing.
Hatching is an amazing way to do anything. I mean, I'm doing it to keep I did it because I had a rooster first off. And then I started getting really interested in genetic, like when you cross an Easter egger with an olive egger, or color
Right.
genetics with egg and feathers. And maybe we might be able to put some images up on the screen of some of the ones that I've hatched out, and parents and things like that. I don't know how you feel about that, but
Maybe. I
we
mean,
might be able to
I'm not the most skilled editor, but maybe if they're not up there, you know that I'm not that great yet, but maybe.
in the future we will. But I will, if we can, then you guys will be seeing some
Or maybe we could even put them in a
chicken.
post. You could put them in a post maybe on YouTube.
Yeah,
If I can't get them
we'll
up,
do
we'll
that.
do it on a post.
Yes. But I do it for egg color, and just feather color in general. And then also just to keep my own flock going. Um, there's, I keep mine, but then when you breed for your climate, they get more used to where you're from, because usually hatcheries aren't local to you. Unless you live local to a hatchery, then they're local to you. But if you don't, then they're usually not as adapt to your climate and how cold your winters are. But having a rooster and breeding all of that on can get them more used to your climate as well.
Right. We had roosters, but we don't anymore. But when I did have roosters, I hatched out some chicks and I had some really cool combos. And it was just feather footed and all the different colors you can get. It's so crazy. It's so cool. If you, like I said, maybe certain colors, maybe certain carry on a genetic, like I know what you're doing. You want to keep those certain breeds with you and you keep breeding, and it's neat. It's really neat. Hatching is such a neat experience.
Yes. And with breeding, I wanted to add on, you don't have, just because it's a white leg, like if you have a white leghorn rooster, you don't just have to breed it to white leghorn hens. You can breed it to any different hen.
That's what's
But
so
you
cool about breeding chickens. You get the craziest combinations.
yes,
Experiment with
there are
it.
different ways. Absolutely. There are definitely ways to keep, if you prefer having white eggs in the flock, maybe breed with some white leghorns. But if you want different tints of green, then breed to a green egg layer or a blue egg layer. There's so many different things, or a lighter color brown, or a darker color. You can add in a black cock marans. You can darken an egg, lighten an egg. You can go through so many different things before you find something that you can look at and just say, that's amazing. And that's kind of what I'm doing. Not really. I started doing it because I want to keep my rooster's genetics with us and like just mix my flock together instead of buying every year. And so far I've done a pretty good at that.
Yeah, that's definitely. And so with roosters, there is a ratio with roosters to hens, and that's 12 hens per one rooster, because what'll happen is a rooster can choose favorites, whether it's one hen or 3 hens, and what'll happen is he could overbreed a certain hen, and she'll lose her feathers and stuff, and those are her saddle feathers, which are her back feathers, and it'll cause her to become bare, and then his spurs will like dig in, and then they'll cut her, rip her up or something. So there's ways to protect her from feather loss, which is like you can go on Amazon, or there's places you can get it. I do Amazon, but you can go on Amazon and find, just like look up a hen's chicken saddle, and it'll be like just a piece of fabric that you wrap around her, and then the rooster can still be able to breed, but he won't be digging into her back and ripping it up and her losing as much feathers as before. And I say that because whenever we had our roosters, that's something that definitely happened to us. We had barebacks and we had the ripped up, and it just, for me, it wasn't a pretty sight. I didn't care for it. So that's why I bring that up and I make that a point, because I didn't think it was cool. It's the way the chicken, it's life. It is what it is. But that's something that if I ever breed again, I would definitely invest in saddles. That way they wouldn't be torn up and stuff like that.
Yeah, we didn't have enough hens per rooster because I was trying not to buy any and just hatch out. And a lot of their backs are torn up, and some of their backs still aren't healed, and we haven't had a rooster for 4 months.
It takes
somewhere
a while.
in there. It does, and it usually takes until a molt, but they definitely getting better. And I did not like the sight either. I hated seeing it, but I knew that's just how it was, and I knew it was my own fault. So I was beating myself up about it a little bit, but I also knew that that is how they are. But to add on to the hen or the rooster having a favorite hen, it's you can have she might be multiple roosters' favorite hens if you have multiple roosters in with them, and then she's being bred by 2 or 3 roosters, and it's just not fun. But then a hen can also be more, I don't know, it's weird to explain, but sometimes the roosters are just gentler, more, whatever the way I say it, English, not to. Sometimes the roosters are more gentle with the hens, and like I had one of mine that was really gentle with all the hens, and then I had one that was a maniac and tore up all the backs, and he got separated for a little while.
I had a maniac. He was wicked.
He got separated because he was being a complete jerk, and then he went back in there, and he was a little bit better, but still pretty bad. And I did not have a second thought about getting rid of him, honestly, as much as I hated it, but still.
Yeah, ours did not. He did not stay on the farm. I will just say that. But you have your rooster to hen ratio. Now what? You have your rooster breeds, the chickens lay the eggs are fertile. Now a hen goes broody. What is broody? Maybe you've heard it before with chicken talk, but broody is when a hen wants to be a mama. She wants to hatch out those eggs. Whether you have a rooster or not, hens will become broody. So if you have a broody hen and you don't have a rooster, there's ways to break her. I've had trouble breaking my hen, so typically I just leave her unless she's being like an issue. But typically I just leave her. But if you do have a rooster and you do want to hatch, then you can leave her and she will sit on the eggs and she will incubate them. And she will sit there until they hatch, which the hatching time is about 21 days. They can hatch somewhere before, somewhere after. It really all depends. It really does. But
the thing that you want to look for too is if you're not going to separate the hen out with a group of eggs and other hens are laying in the nesting box every single day, then you might have 10 or 12 that hatch one day and then she abandons the other one because those other chicks are ready to go. And then you have eggs that are multiple stages through development because she won't sit there until all of them hatch. She got what she wanted. She got a couple kids and she's going to go and take care of them. So make sure that, well, if you're not separating her, then you mark the eggs with a pencil. The pencil is the easiest thing, and I heard it's the safest thing. And make sure that you're pulling out any other eggs every day, every other day, however you're doing it. Just don't let them get to a point where they start to develop.
Or I have bad hens who will come in and break the eggs. That's something you got to watch too. If you're not separating, sometimes chickens will have this air about them where like, oh, let's eat an egg that I just laid. Chickens are weird, but
I do the same thing.
Sometimes they're like that. So that's something to take into consideration if you want to hatch. Be cautious of that if you're not going to separate. But if you do separate, she will be content sitting on her little nest for however long it takes. And it's safer, I think, because then she's not getting pecked on, which I know is definitely a thing. She's pushed down in the pecking order, which I know we'll talk about in a future episode. But because she's away from the flock sitting on the nest, the flock kind of forgets about her. And so whenever they come up to lay their eggs, she could be beat up on, pushed off the nest, all that stuff. So I found it easier I separated mine, especially when it was close to hatch date, because the chicks would hatch and I know my chickens would just peck the living tar out of them if they hatched, because my chickens are mean.
Mine are the same way, but I debated separating them. I did separate the nesting box the last 2 or 3. Well, mine never fully hatched out any eggs because I kept breaking them and it was just too hot for her to sit in there. So we actually went, after 4 months of her being broody, we went to Tractor Supply, bought chicks and put them underneath of her. And she took care of them. I separated them for a day or two, or for, I think it was 2 or 3 days, put water up there, let them just bond. And then after that, she took them down into the bottom with the rest of the hens. I didn't try separating her after that. And she stood her ground. She definitely was not she would not let anybody else pick on her. And the rooster knew when she got close and the rooster wouldn't even mate with her because he was like, you're not, she wouldn't have it.
She was so protective.
And if one of those chicks were to get pecked and let out a scream, she would come running over there and the hen that did it would get it. So they're definitely very protective.
Yeah, very. That's when a hen is broody, she will growl at you, she will peck you. Unless you have a nice broody. Mine was pretty chill. I could pet her. I could get in there and look. She would growl at me. Just be like, hey, hands off. These are my babies. And I'd be like, well, I kind of am letting you do this. So, like, I gotta, monitor. But it was so cool. I know for whenever my hen hatched out her eggs, I was like, oh, this will be so cute. She'll stick around with the chicks. She'll be like the little mama. We'll be able to like watch them like grow up together. No, as soon as she hatched out the chicks, like literally next day, she was flying out of the bin. She was like gone. Like she didn't even want to be in the pen with them. I was like, okay. So I took her and threw her outside and she didn't miss them one bit. It was like, okay. I don't think that's how that works. Sometimes it was her first time, so.
Yeah, you have some that definitely prefer to be more motherly, and some are just hatching them out and then go and just protect them those first couple days or a week or whatever. And the flock will leave them alone because they know what not to do after that point. But as long as they're not being picked on and there's no blood being drawn, it's fine to keep them with them. Separating them or taking them away from the flock can cause more problems later on because they will start pecking the chicks again and it just won't be good. So I prefer to keep mine with them as long as possible. And mine are actually still doing that. But when the hen is ready to start laying again, she will actually kind of like disown the chicks because it's her body saying that she's ready. Her chicks are old enough. I'm going to lay an egg now. They don't need her anymore. As heartbreaking as it is to watch, it is something that is necessary and it does happen. But then they still have that close bond because they were raised with her and she still loves them. They still sleep. I have one, she still sleeps with her mom every single night. She goes up right beside her and she hasn't been very motherly to her for a long time. But then right when I started moving everybody around, shuffling the flock, she went and they were sleeping next to each other all the time, even though it's been months since she's even really cared for her. That bond is still there. The bond will never be broken between a mother and her chick.
Yeah. It's so cool. I love it. You're making me want to like hatch out chicks again. Like I want to do it all over again. It was such a neat experience. I loved it.
I'm fighting the urge to hatch out some ducks right now, but I'm waiting until everyone's like so yeah, definitely getting some chick fever over here.
Yeah, for real. Next spring, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Absolutely.
So it takes 21 days for a chick to hatch. If the chick has trouble hatching, I mean, with mine, the mama hen, like, she helped the chick out. She kind of like just broke the shell, kind of cracked it open. But when it comes time for the chick to hatch, there's a thing called a pip. And the pip is the little beak. Chicks have a little tip on the edge of their beak, and it's like just like the little egg poker.
It's called an egg tooth. It's called an egg tooth, and it falls off after like 3 days.
Yep.
Because it's not needed after that point. And yeah, they use that to break through the shell.
It's hard enough to break through, and you'll hear them, their little peeping, and then they'll hatch out. Oh my gosh.
And
I really want to hatch out chicks now.
I do too. But I've only really ever incubated eggs myself, and I have had instances where they start pipping and they stop because like the humidity got too low overnight and then it raised back up. And what I'll do is I will spray very, very little water over the pip where the egg is cracked from them trying to break it. Spray very little just to get everything moist again. And I will peel back very little of the shell. Don't like go in pulling pieces off because you can hurt them. They are still attached to the egg at that point. They're not detached yet. And you can seriously hurt them. I have never had that happen because I've been super careful. I'm always like keeping that in the back of my mind. Don't do anything too rash. I'll spray them with very little water and let them go. Raise the humidity up higher and let them go for a little bit. And then sometimes you do lose the chick, which is sad. But so it is the circle of life. Things do happen like that, as bad as they are. But in the end, you will still get a lot of chicks if you have a lot of eggs set.
And if a chick pips and it doesn't hatch out right away, give it some time. It's still little. It's still working on, pushing itself out. But I think there's a time frame.
I think if 24 within 24 hours, I think.
If it's not out yet.
Yeah.
You may need to help it, or the hen will help it. Either you help it or the hen helps it. It's all like, yeah. But if it hasn't pipped yet, don't worry. Like I said, it can be before, it can be after. It's all time. It's patience. I know you want to see that chick so bad, but like, give it time.
Yes. 2 pieces of advice that I want to put in here or anywhere. When the chicks hatch, do not open the incubator when you see that first chick. As hard as it may be to control yourself or control your children, don't do it, because you are risking not just that chick, but anything else that is pipped that you cannot see, because air is going to get in there and dry everything up. And then that's when they can get it literally shrink wraps them and it can kill them. As awful as it is, honestly, but do not open it. Give it time. And then also, if once the first chick hatches, take it out after 2 days. What I do is once the first one hatches, I wait all the way until I'll open it after it being in there for 2 days, and anything else that's dry that's hatched since then, I will pull out, or anything that's a little bit wet still, I will pull all of them out, put them under a heat lamp with food and water, and then pour more water into the bottom of the incubator, let the humidity rise up. I do it probably more than I need to, but I'm always keeping that in the back of my mind. Fill it up more than I need to, and let the humidity get kind of high. And then I will let it sit again until another one hatches. And then 2 days later, I'll do the same thing. Or if all the eggs hatch, then I'll just pull everything out after the last one.
And like I said, I hatched out with hen and I've only done it once. So I have no experience with an incubator. But for those who may want to incubate, do you have a specific incubator that you use or you recommend for them?
Okay, I've tried some of the cheaper ones because I mean, we weren't really getting into it and going to spend a lot of money at first, and we got a cheap one and it was not good. So I definitely recommend against the cheaper ones. I would say the best one, I don't know the name of it, but it's at Tractor Supply. I think it's around $100.
The one
if
that
I'm not
I've
mistaken.
been eyeing up is the Mana Pro Nurture Right 360. 360? I think it's 360. That's the one I've been eyeballing, and it's at Tractor Supply.
I've heard it. If it's the one that I have was around $100, and it's a good incubator. It's held up for 2 or 3 years now, and I've always had a good hatch rate every single time. But of course, do your research on that. But if you are going to be hatching long, you're going to be doing it for years, get something that's maybe a little bit more expensive in the beginning, but it will save you so much because you can have an automatic humidifier, automatic turner, all of that, and it just works. It's more efficient, and you do need that if you're going to be hatching out a lot more frequently.
Yeah, I can't think of any incubators right now, but if I do think of some, I can put some links or the names of them in the description so y'all can check them out. Maybe the one that I was talking about or the one that you use, we can link those.
Yeah, I'll figure out which one I have, and I will send you the name of it, and then you can just link it in the bottom.
Yeah. And if you have any questions about it, like we said, and we've said it of every episode, if you have any questions, ask us. Email, Instagram, comments. Yes. We want to hear from you.
All of it's from the Farmyard. That's the best way to get in contact with us. Also, email fromthefarmyard@gmail.com, from the Farmyard on Instagram, or here on YouTube. You can put in the comments your questions, concerns, whatever. And I know we're getting low on time. We're getting close to that point. But we have 2 last questions, which we can both answer the first one, but I don't think you have a lot of experience with the second one. What age do hens start laying eggs?
I think it's different per breed, honestly. I think some hens are just bred to be production birds, and I think they're meant to produce sooner. Which episode on chicken breeds? I'm leaking a lot of episodes here, people, but we've got a lot of things planned out. We've got a lot of things. But
And what I and
that's a
for me,
future one.
yes, and for me to add on to what age do hens lay eggs, um, I have leghorns that have started laying at 4 months old because they're used for mass production. I don't force my birds through that where they have to lay every single day. They can take a month or 2 months off. I'm not going to push it. I have so many at this point, and I kind of have track of whose eggs whose. But I also have Easter eggers that have waited until 10 months to lay because that's
Yeah.
just when their body, it's all about their body. It's not any one, the average is 6 months. I will say that is around 6 months. It can be 4 months, it can be 10 months, but usually around 6 months is when they start laying.
Ours start about 6, 7, 8 months, probably right around there. And when they do, that's when we typically switch from chick feed to egg layer. Well, gradually we'll mix the chick food in with the egg layer so they're not getting a full force in with the egg layer pellets. But just a little food tip there. If your hen starts to
Yeah.
lay, start increasing and giving them more egg layer pellets so then they can have, because there's benefits in the egg layer pellets, whereas it's not in the chick food, and the hens need that to lay, because calcium is a huge thing, which I know we talked about in one of our past
Yeah.
episodes. So yeah, just
I
little thing that we do.
I don't mix mine. I go, well, I do now because I have so many that are at different ages, and I just mix it for all around flock. But when I first started, right when I got that, I was feeding chick food all the way up until the point that I saw that first egg. When I saw that first egg, everything, I finished out whatever chick food I had left,
Yep,
and
that's what we do.
then
That's
threw,
basically.
and then threw some egg layer pellets out. But then I really started heavily going down on egg pellets.
That's basically what we do,
Egg
yeah.
layer pellets.
Yep.
And yeah, everything's worked out fine for me. I think everything's worked out fine for you. Just don't
Yep.
feed too early and don't feed too late.
Yep.
But the last thing that we're gonna touch on really quick before we do an outro, um, egg color genetics. I kind of touched on this earlier. It's not really that big of a topic. I mean, it's really not that big of a topic, but you can have, there's different breeds that lay blue, green, brown, or white eggs. You can get pink too from that.
There's
It's not like a
speckled
bright,
eggs. There's a lot of
yes,
like different flavors.
yes. You can get so many, but when you're mixing a brown egg layer roost, like black copper morans with a white leghorn, whether it's hen, rooster, or vice versa, it can be either one. The egg color that you're most likely going to get is a brown egg, not one or the other. It's most likely going to be a brown egg because the two genetics combine, and you're not going to get something really dark. You're not going to get something super light. You're probably going to meet right in the middle. But you can also get something that's lighter or darker, or even mainly the same or almost the same color as the parent, but lighter or darker depending. Um, Same thing with green and blue eggs. You can, when you're breeding blue or green egg layers, you can, and how you get a little side note, but to get an olive egger, you breed with a dark egg layer rooster or a green egg layer rooster to a dark layer hen, vice versa, all that.
Chicken math,
But
people. Chicken math.
yeah, you breed with them. You do the dark egg layer with a blue or green egg layer, and you'll get like a dark green olive color, and those are called olive eggers. Now, if you want to darken that, you will breed back to a dark colored rooster if it's a hen, vice versa if it's a rooster, but roosters you really don't know because they don't lay eggs. But if you want to lighten it because it's a little darker than you'd want, you can add a white leghorn or a lighter colored green hen or something like that. There's so many different things, and I know I'm not explaining it the best, but it's a wide topic. I encourage you to do more of your own research though, because incredibly helpful.
Yep. And I think
I
that's
don't know if any of that makes
everything. I think that's everything.
I hope all that made sense. Yes.
Yep, it did. No, it did. If coloration is something you want to have, maybe you want green eggs, blue eggs, take into consideration what you're breeding. If feather coloration is something that you want to have, you know, take all that into consideration with what you're breeding, your breeding projects. If you want it planned out, like if you want a specific look to your bird, plan it out. Or if you want to be just like me and stick some random eggs underneath a hen, then do that too. It's a surprise. It's a barnyard mix.
Yeah.
So
Yes, absolutely.
but there's a lot of things going into breeding. So I think that's everything. Do you want to outro this?
Yeah. Again, like I said, I'll say it again. Thank you guys for the support you've shown us by following our YouTube account, our Instagram account, everything, commenting, everything. It shows so much and it means so much to us. And we're super excited. We can't say it enough how much we appreciate all of you. But thank you guys for watching our 6th podcast episode of hatching and breeding chickens.
We'll see you on the
and
next
we'll
one.
see you guys in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.